Another fine morning. Another fine morning indeed. That was a close one. Hi abroad in a pan. Abroad in a pan? I can't tell if that's a thinly veiled insult or a lucrative branding opportunity. Your videos aren't bad, but they need more special effects to level up in my opinion. More special effects to level up? Well, I don't see any other vloggers in Japan featuring a highly elaborate and unnecessary CGI plane crash. Once you've had a CGI plane crash, you don't need to put the effort in again, like, ever. So no, take your special effects and get out. Oh, and thank you for that branding idea. You might be onto something there. Welcome to Ask Abroad, the show answering questions sent in by you, the viewer, about Japan. This week's topic is everyday life in Japan. So most of the questions in this video will be about that topic, with a few random ones thrown in, including comment of the week and most annoying comment of the week. Before that though, I realise there's been a noticeable lack of videos the past few weeks, and I think it's time to offer some kind of explanation. However, to make things a bit more ambiguous and fun, I thought I would present 3 reasons as to why that would be, and you can guess which one it is. Reason number 1. After growing impatient waiting for Star Wars The Force Awakens, I cryogenically froze myself in order to jump ahead to the 3rd week of December. Reason number 2. After growing impatient for Star Wars The Force Awakens to release, I cryogenically froze myself in order to jump ahead to the 3rd week of December. But after my attempts were met with failure, I sat and cried for 4 weeks instead. Why isn't it working? It's so fucking cold. Reason number 3. In the run-up to doing abroad in Japan full-time when I moved to the beautiful city of Sendai in the 2nd week of January, I've been sorting out my visa, planning new videos, buying new equipment that I can't afford, and testing out some groundbreaking chat-up lines. Yeah, check out my shirt.
I said.
You know what that's made out of?
No.
Boyfriend material. Good luck guessing which one, but the answer will be revealed in the next few weeks, unless you look in the questionnaire in the description box below. Have you ever been asked to leave a place for being a gaijin? No, and I honestly think this is another myth about Japan that got out of hand online. These bars where foreigners aren't allowed in are talked about quite a lot on the internet. Though I'm not denying they exist, in my 3 years of living in Japan, I think I've seen a bar saying no foreigners maybe once, and that was in a really touristy area. The fact that I rarely see them should be reassuring, considering I visit maybe 10,000 bars or restaurants every month. If it does happen, it will likely be in a small bar where the owner probably can't speak English and gets anxious or uncomfortable being surrounded by customers they can't communicate with, rather than some kind of racist crusade against all foreigners. Still, if it has happened to you, let us know in the comments section below. I'll be keen to hear of any experiences, but I haven't come across it and it's not something you should really worry about. Have you gotten accustomed to the squat toilets? No, and I don't know many foreigners who have. Admittedly, after 3 years, I'm still not even sure how to really use the damn thing. It's ridiculous given the contrast to the other half of Japanese toilets, which look like they've been sent from the future to make toilets fun. There are few things worse than desperately needing the toilet, rushing into the nearest one and discovering it's your only option. No! Honestly, I would sooner listen to a Pitbull song than use a squat toilet. Actually, no, I don't think I would. How difficult was it to feel integrated into Japanese society? In my first year, it's true I did feel like a glorified tourist. I wasn't confident as a teacher, I couldn't speak any Japanese, so there was a constant language barrier in my way. More importantly, I spent most of my time with other foreign English teachers, so I didn't really socialise with my local community in my area. I also made a conscious decision that I was going to lock myself away for most of the first year and study Japanese in order to set myself up for the next few years. It sounds like a stupid thing to do, but in hindsight I don't really have any regrets, because after that first year things really did get amazing. In my second year I stopped studying Japanese as much and started using it. I went out more and made friends in the local community. I got a Japanese tutor, I started volunteering at the local international centre and running English conversation classes. So I just kept saying yes to things and meeting more and more people. By the 3rd year I'd befriended loads of local businessmen in my area and even beatboxed in front of a local politician, so I felt very much integrated. The most important component to feeling integrated into Japanese society is relationships, just having good relationships with colleagues, with people in your local area, and just getting involved with more and more things and meeting more and more people along the way. What's the most awkward situation you've encountered whilst living in Japan? It was probably during my time as an English teacher. I was running an English lesson with a Japanese teacher of English one time, and the subject of the lesson was occupations and jobs. So he wanted the students to talk about what their dream job was and what they wanted to become. And my colleague asked if I could talk a bit about what I wanted to be when I was growing up and what my dream had always been. And I said, well, growing up as a child, I always wanted to be a pirate. I love that sense of adventure and discovery and the promise of treasure. And she looked at me suddenly and said in a serious voice, "But Chris Sensei, why would you be a pirate? Why would you want to kill and rape people?" And I just stood there in front of the class, in awkward silence, not quite knowing what to say. Thankfully, I also remembered I wanted to be a pilot, so I used that instead, but that was pretty awkward. I mean, pirates killing and raping people, that's ridiculous. I don't know what version of Muppets Treasure Island she's been watching. Damn, if you were to put on a pair of shades, you would look exactly like Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Laugh out loud. Exactly like Dr. Octopus. Are there certain things that make everyday life difficult in Japan? Language barrier aside, as it's too obvious, there is another cultural aspect that can complicate things somewhat, and that is ambiguity, or aimai as it's known in Japanese. In Japan, it's very polite to be indirect and ambiguous on your opinion, and often this can mean it can be difficult to work out if someone means yes or no, or what they actually think. For example, as an English teacher, if I made a lesson plan and then took it to my colleague to have them check it over, if they disagree with it, they might say, oh, it's difficult. Whereas in the UK, we would say, this is awful. So the Japanese way of doing it is certainly more polite, but it can be really frustrating when you just want a clear yes or no answer, and instead for 10 minutes you get difficult. I've even been to a hotel where the staff were too polite, too ambiguous to even tell me the hotel was full. Instead they sort of cocked their head like this and looked at the screen going, for 10 minutes, waiting for me to acknowledge that the hotel was full and say, oh, okay, sorry, I understand. Instead of giving a clear directive, a colleague may indirectly hint at something, and you have to try and work out if it's an off-the-cuff remark or they're telling you to do something. For example, outside of summer, if I had my top button undone at work, colleagues would come over and say, whoa, you must be cold. And I had to work out if that was just a general remark or if they were actually telling me, do your button up, that's not appropriate. But it's a huge part of the culture, and I must admit, although it can be frustrating for a blunt, direct, straight-talking foreigner to deal with, it's still quite an interesting and fun part of the cultural experience, once you've got your head around it. Is Japan seriously as far forward in technology as the country is made out to be? Make no mistake, Japan is up there as one of the world's most innovative, technologically advanced countries, and it probably has the greatest transport infrastructure in the world. But it's not this magical, futuristic robot wonderland that everyone seems to think it is. Quite the opposite in many ways. Personal computers are rare, many of my students and colleagues don't even have a computer at home. And equally disturbing is the everyday usage of something called a fax machine, a device which can be found in nearly every office. Perhaps one of the most frustrating things is ATMs, many of which close after 8 PM. Japan is still very much a cash-based society, and most people walk around with their wallet filled with tens of thousands of yen. And I find most foreigners who've lived in Japan tend to express similar surprise that the reality is somewhat different from the image conveyed overseas. What is your favourite time of year in Japan? Winter, summer, etc. and why? My favourite time of year is autumn, so from September to early November. The temperature is just right, it's neither too hot nor too cold, and the autumn colours look spectacular. Also, there aren't many big national holidays, so students are at school, people are at work, meaning if you travel around, places aren't too crowded. The cherry blossom season is nice, if not slightly overrated. Truthfully, the autumn colours are far more impressive. How to defeat the final boss of Japan. 2 glasses of red wine, consumed in quick succession.
Go fuck yourself.
God, I hate the English. He literally has his nose in the air and is looking down it at the camera. Can his eyelids be any more lazy?
Yes, they can be considerably more lazy.
Go fuck yourself.
Do random people stare at you because you're foreign? Yes, particularly in rural areas. But it's to be expected living in a town with 100,000 people and being one of a dozen Western foreigners. Even if I see another foreigner, I'm surprised and I stare probably more than anyone. And even if people do stare, it's not annoying. With one notable exception that I wrote an article about a few months ago. You can check the article out in the description box below. It can be a bit weird standing out at first, but you get used to it after a few weeks. What is the best English you've ever seen printed on a Japanese product? I think my favourite would have to be the t-shirt I bought that says, "Are you enjoy spring?" Not just because I always read it in my mind in that unnecessarily aggressive tone, but because I wonder at what point someone thought, yes, this is the question that people want on the front of their shirt. And I so badly long for the day that I walk down the street and see someone else wearing it other than myself. What was your favourite moment in the entirety of your time you spent in Japan? I think it was the first time I realised I was having a conversation in Japanese with my friend Natsuki without consciously being aware that I was using it. It was during my second year of living in Japan, and I'd been learning Japanese for about a year at that point, and during my first year of learning and using Japanese, I was always very consciously aware that I was using it because I had to think really carefully about what I was saying, especially as the grammar between Japanese and English is incomparable, it's completely alien, and you have to always change your way of thinking. But I remember sitting in this pub and talking to my friend Natsuki for hours on end, and then getting home and realising, wait a minute, I've just been speaking and listening in Japanese for hours on end without even noticing it. And for me that was a real breakthrough moment. To sit with your friend, eat and drink and talk in this whole new language was a completely amazing experience. I felt like I'd overcome a major hurdle in my quest for learning Japanese. So that was a really big moment in my time in Japan so far. So we find ourselves at the end once again. The next Ask Abroad video will be about learning Japanese. So please leave your questions in the comments section. Also, there's a questionnaire in the description box below. If you filled it out earlier in the year through Facebook or Twitter, thank you for doing that. It really helped give a sense of direction going forward into next year. Your efforts were not in vain. This questionnaire is about what kind of videos people want to see next year, as well as allowing people to decide their top 5 favourite videos on this channel, of which the results will be announced in the next few weeks. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button if you want more, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas. And for the record, The Force Awakens, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. It was pretty good, definitely worth watching. See you all soon, take care. Yeah, look how fun it is. Look how fun it is. Look how fun it is. Alright, fine. Japan is the country that popularised the cat cafe, a place where you can sit and enjoy dozens of cats and overpriced coffee. But what if it isn't enough? What if you want even more cats?